Hi, I'm Kat Kalashian for Live and Invest Overseas, and we get sent hundreds of questions every day from all over the world via email and comment box on our website. And one that we got last week caught my attention because it's a place that we're currently thinking about a lot. So, our reader wrote in, "Hello there. I am looking for a foreign place to retire that does not tax my retirement nor any other income." So there was a little bit more to the message, but that's the general point. And while taxes should never be the defining factor in making a decision to move overseas or in where to move overseas, it can be an important one. So while I would say don't let the tail wag the dog, it is something to keep in mind. And perhaps for some people more than others, it's something to pay close attention to. So, generally speaking, to answer this person's question, the top four tax havens, as we might refer to them for foreign residents, are number one, Panama. Panama does not tax any foreign earned income. And it has a popular pensionado visa. That means a retirement visa, which is, of course, aimed at retirees. And it is actually one of the most generous pensionado or retiree visa programs in the world. Number two would be Costa Rica, which is another place that does not tax any foreign earned income. It also has a pensionado visa. Actually, it was the blueprint for all pensionado visas that came after it. Costa Rica's came before Panama's. However, these days, Panama's is more beneficial than Costa Rica's. Costa Rica's has become more expensive, and they've actually reduced a lot of the benefits that are available to people. However, North American retirees can retire there on the pensionado visa, which requires a monthly pension of only $1,000 a month, just as Panama does. Number three would be Belize, where foreign income is also untaxed, and there are also extremely low property taxes, which is pretty true of Panama and Costa Rica as well. And the Qualified Retired Persons Visa, the QRP program, as it's often referred to, offers duty-free import of household goods and many tax exemptions. Number four, outside of the Americas, is Malaysia. Foreign income is typically untaxed. It might be taxed if you actually bring it into a bank in Malaysia. If you remit the money into the country, it may be taxed, but that is getting into a gray area we don't need to explore here. And Malaysia offers the Malaysia My Second Home, the MM2H visa for retirees, which is quite popular. Today, however, I would like to do a deep dive into Panama in this context because Panama is one of our top destinations. We call it the pensioner's paradise. So let me just start with the basics. Why do we like Panama so much? I'm going to give the elevator pitch for the country in general. Panama is a tropical paradise with two gorgeous long coastlines, one Pacific, one Caribbean, which means one is full of surf breaks, the other is full of nice, calm, clear scuba or snorkel waters, endless rainforests and jungles, beaches and islands galore, as well as providing all of the creature comforts, modern infrastructure, and the amenities that North Americans are used to. So it really is the best of all worlds if you're looking for a life in the Americas. But when it comes to finances, that is where this little country really shines. So let's dive in. Panama is a US dollar destination. That means it has been using the US dollar as its currency, and it's actually been doing so for about 120 years. So this is not a new thing, and this is a very well-established norm. And what that means is that an American living or retiring here has no currency exchange risk to worry about. And when you're bringing money in, you don't even really need to think about the loss that you might suffer moving from one currency to another. Plus, the country is very economically stable thanks to the Panama Canal, which is a global logistics and trade hub. The friendly tax policies have made Panama City a base for multinational corporations and international banks from around the world. And it is a stable, democratic, relatively drama-free government that is highly pro-business, politically moderate, and very foreigner-friendly. And it has been for quite some time. So again, this isn't just new to this regime, new to this presidency. This has been the case for decades now already. And each subsequent incoming president and party has upheld these same status quo. So basically, the Panamanian government has been and is still actively wooing foreign retirees, specifically via its pensionado, its retiree visa program. And these foreign residents, the government recognizes that they bring money, which supports the local economy. They bring new perspectives, they bring diversity, and Panama wants that from the top down. So whether it's new business ideas or just spending some capital in the form of buying real estate or investing in local CDs. Those are all very important economic contributors that Panama really appreciates in its foreign resident population. Panama also stands out as a top choice for real estate and lifestyle investment, which many retirees that move here consider as a way to boost their nest egg. So many key local developers in Panama have long track records. They span decades, which means you can feel really confident when you're buying here. And right now, they are actually more flexible and open to creative financing rates and plans than they have been in a long time. So before we even get into taxes, it is worth noting that the cost of living here is so low that it'll make a big difference in your bottom line whether or not you're looking at the taxes. So expats here report on cutting back their living expenses by as much as 40 to 60%. And everything from food to real estate, everything comes at a lower price here. Prices have increased in recent years owing to the growing popularity of the country, but really life here remains an excellent value compared to North America or Western Europe. Your cost of living could be under $1,500 a month. This would be a simple but a fully appointed lifestyle in most of the country's interior. If you wanted to live in the capital, Panama City, or in any of the popular expat havens like Boquete, you could easily spend double that or more depending on your lifestyle choices. But the point is that this is all highly controllable. And so before I go on to outline some of the specifics on financial situations and tax breaks in Panama, I do want to just reiterate that Panama is what we call the pensioner's paradise. This is a place that really showers retirees with exclusive perks like tax waivers, duty-free imports, lifestyle discounts that amount to up to 50% on most of your bills. That's everything from entertainment and travel to utilities and professional services. So there really is a huge, huge incentive given to retirees moving here. And I am about to tell you more about all of those in detail, but first I do want to invite you to join our team in Panama on the ground. You would be one of more than 100 fellow readers joining us in January for our annual Live and Invest in Panama conference. It is our longest running event. We've been holding this for nearly 20 years now. And so we have all of the local experts and service providers to detail to us how to best take advantage of everything that Panama has to offer. Everything will take place over the course of 3 days, full of expert sessions, discussion panels, private consultations, and social activities that, again, amongst 100 or so other people that are either living in or interested in living and investing in Panama. So you'll get to know the real Panama this way, both the opportunities and the realities, good or bad as they may be. You'll get to know what living here might actually look like for you. You'll learn about all the country's regions for adventure, for investment, for living, and connect with people who can help you navigate the residency, healthcare, real estate, and day-to-day living. You'll get an in-depth view of Panama that outsiders, tourists, and the internet researchers who are out there could really never access on their own. You'll leave with the clarity, connections, and confidence that you need to make an informed decision about your future in Panama. So find out more on that link on the screen. Meantime, let's go on to talking about what retiring in Panama does to your finances. So how does this actually affect your bottom line when it comes to filing a tax form every year? Well, first of all, unfortunately, as US citizens, we are always beholden to Uncle Sam. The IRS has a very long arm and it follows us no matter where we go across the globe. If you're Canadian, you actually have a much easier time of things on this front. So moving outside of the US does not remove your obligation to pay US taxes. US citizens still must file a return with the IRS every year, regardless of where in the world they reside or what they owe. In fact, if you owe nothing, you still must fill out this form and send it in. If not, you could be penalized the following year. However, on the Panama side of things, Panama uses a territorial approach to taxation, which means that they only tax income derived in Panama. So expats can effectively live here without a local tax burden, depending on the source of their income. Because the country does not tax foreign sourced income, retirees do not have to pay local taxes on their social security, their foreign pensions, their investment income, or earnings from property abroad. Only Panama-sourced income, such as operating a local business, earning rental income from a local property, or working for a Panamanian company, would be taxed locally. Plus, living overseas can substantially reduce your US tax bill. There are 3 main tax advantages available to Americans overseas. First, there's the foreign earned income exclusion. This is one of the most well-known and most commonly used expat tax advantages. Through it, you can exclude up to $30,000 of your income for 2025 from US taxation, and that will jump to $132,900 in 2026. It goes up each year with inflation. This income must be earned outside of the US, and your tax home must also be outside of the US. This is where things can get a little bit more complicated, and you should speak with a qualified tax advisor to make sure you're compliant to your tax base. So if you're living in Panama or splitting your time in Panama, you want to speak to an attorney, tax attorney who knows Panama and the US. You don't want to just work with only a US tax attorney because they want to understand the Panama side of things as well as one who is used to working in that field. Number 2 is the foreign housing exclusion, which allows expats to exclude thousands in foreign housing expenses from US taxes. And finally, there's the foreign tax credit, for which you'll receive a US tax credit for every dollar you pay in tax to a foreign government. The foreign tax credit may suit people who don't qualify for the foreign earned income exclusion, or for Americans who are tax resident in countries with a higher tax rate than that of the US, which is not the case in Panama, which has a lower effective tax burden. If you pay more abroad than you have in the United States, you can carry those excess taxes paid as a credit for up to 10 years. So even if you're not able to use all of those credits in this calendar year, they'll carry over to the next year. So big potential savings there. And one big advantage of the foreign tax credit is that it can apply also to what are called unearned incomes, such as dividends, interests, and royalties, which is not the case on the foreign earned income exclusion, which is only on active income, not passive income. So again, this is just really broad strokes, folks, and you're going to want to speak with somebody who is specialized in this, and they'll look at your specific situation to make sure that you are making the most of your potential benefits in Panama or any other country that you might move to. So let's get back to Panama. In general, just to speak about the economy and its strength, Panama is the biggest international banking and financial center in the region, with more than 70 licensed banks at any one time. It's one of the few Latin markets where it's possible for foreigners to borrow locally to buy real estate as well. So generally, a foreigner could obtain a mortgage of up to 70% loan to value, with terms ranging between 20 and 25 years, depending on your income and your age. Banks typically for this will require proof of income, residency status, and a local life insurance policy. When it comes to other little financial tidbits, as a US citizen, you can receive your Social Security payments outside the US in most countries, including Panama. And you can get these benefits electronically without any extra step in the process. You'll simply wire it to a bank or a financial institution in the country with a direct deposit agreement with the US, which is most of them, including Panama. And if you use a non-American bank, the only thing to be aware of is that you might be charged fees on international transactions, which you will have to cover the cost of. So you might lose a little bit out on your Social Security if you do that. An overseas recipient of Social Security payments will be sent a questionnaire every year or so, and it's important to complete it and send it back, or risk a pause or even stoppage in your payments. So make sure you keep up to date with Uncle Sam, regardless of what he's asking. And so what about the other costs of living in Panama? So the two major expenses for any American household are typically rent and healthcare. Rent, as I've mentioned, is highly manageable throughout the country. You could rent a local style home or apartment for as little as $400 or less even per month, or you could spend many multiples of that on foreigner housing in high demand areas like Panama City, Coronado, Boquete. And so again, this is very controllable. It depends on what kind of standard of living you're looking for and how many concessions you're willing to make to the lifestyle that you already know and are used to. The next expense, though, is health insurance or health care. And so a local Panama health insurance plan, which can be good comprehensive coverage, can cost less than $100 a month. International or expat coverage would range from $200 to $350 per month, and more again if you include coverage within the United States, which is always a lot more expensive. To just simply pay out of pocket for doctor's visits in Panama, you would spend $40 to $60 in the capital, $30 at a clinic in the capital, $20 to $30 in the interior, generally speaking. So private hospitals such as Hospital Punta Pacifica, which is affiliated with Johns Hopkins Medicine in Panama City, or the Hospital Nacional in Panama City. They both offer really, really high quality care that meets international standards. And then regional hospitals in David or Santiago provide very strong local services, although they might be a little bit below that of what you're used to back home. How to live here long term. So the best way to make use of all of these financial benefits in Panama is to come in as a retiree. You will get the most bang for your buck coming in as a retiree. So the most popular visa option for retirees is the pensionado, which I mentioned. It works for anybody who's receiving a pension. You do also have to be over 18, receiving a pension, either private or government. And for Americans, that means if you're on Social Security, you're already qualified for the pensionado visa. The minimum pension income required is $1,000 for a single person or $1,250 for a married couple. So there's an extra $250 cost per dependent, which could include your spouse, underage children, minor children, or any adult children who are dependent on you for whatever reason. So another option for retirees that is a little bit less popular, but nonetheless interesting, is the Golden Visa program, which allows you to invest $300,000 in real estate or in a local CD and apply for residency through that. So as you can see, Panama really is one of the top choices in the world, both for retirees, but also for anybody who's concerned about the finances overseas and wants to make sure that they're minimizing their tax burdens and perhaps even lowering their cost of living when moving overseas. If you are interested in Panama, if this sounds like your kind of retirement overseas, I really do encourage you strongly to take a look at that link on the screen and learn more about joining us in January for our Live and Invest in Panama conference. My team will be there in person with dozens of local experts, expats, service providers, and lots of people to answer all of your questions, as well as more than 100 other people interested in Panama, just like you are, to network with and chat to. And as always, if you like what you're seeing, make sure to like and subscribe to receive more videos like this every week from Live and Invest Overseas. Happy trails.